So what we found so far is when multiple jobs go through multiple stages, as the example we saw here, there are different opportunities of debottlenecking. Now we will continue this with our understanding of how do we address the coronary unit problem, which critically controls the output of type 1 and type 2 patients. So let us take a look at the capacity calculations. What we will do is we will increase the number of units, resources available in coronary and see what happens. So what you see here is earlier we had 5, now we have increased the number of resources available at coronary to 6. So what it means is earlier we had 80 as the output, now it has become 96, and because that has become 96, the station output also increased to 96, which affected the output increased here, therefore the output also increased here. So earlier with 5 coronary units, if you may recall, we had 425 and odd number of patients getting serviced in the health center. Now with an addition of a coronary unit, we find that this number has gone to 441.6. So there is an increase. Now one can explore this further, one can make it 7 units, perhaps 8 units and so on. So let us look at a number 9. What happens if we increase the coronary units to 9 and see the situation? So here is the situation where we have increased the number of resources available at coronary unit to 9. Now clearly the capacity, what in the base case was 80, has become 144. There is a huge jump because we added more resources. But interestingly what we find is that coronary unit is no longer the bottleneck, because the requirement is less than what is possible in that station. So in the change scenario, the bottleneck has shifted to the radiology department. I have highlighted it with yellow color just to point that, and also the output has gone up to 480. So what is interesting here is as we added more number of units to the coronary section of this diagnostic health center, we revisited the notion of wandering bottlenecks phenomenon. So what we saw in the simple basic case, that when you try to debottleneck a particular stage of a process, the bottleneck can shift out elsewhere, that phenomenon continues to exist. At a capacity of 9 in the coronary units, the bottleneck shifted to radiology department for type 1 and type 2 patients. So it is very important to note that as we have seen in the previous video, the output at the coronary unit can be increased not merely by adding more and more resources, although I demonstrated that it may be possible that there are process choices and improvement opportunities which may in fact bring down the process time and thereby increase the capacity. So let us not forget that issue. Increasing the output need not be done by just adding more and more units of capacity. We can also look at changing the process choices, making some improvements, and perhaps increase the output as we tried in the earlier example. We can try that in this example also if we have the information. So far we have analyzed capacity on the basis of available resources and process times. In all these examples, we took some process times, we took certain resources that are available and went about calculating and finding out what is the output. There is another interesting application that we come across in real life, which in some sense reverses the whole problem. We may want to arrive at a desired cycle time given a targeted output and use it as a basis for designing a process. In other words, we will not start with the process, we will start with what is the output I need and do something about the process and design it so that we really get the output that we are looking at. There are several real life examples of this variety also. So we shall address this interesting problem pertaining to capacity and process design in the next video.